Hey guys, welcome back to my channel with another speed build. And of course, would it be a speed build that I make without it being on the more modern side of things? Well, I don't know why. It's either I make like the most basic, like suburban house or a modern vibe house. I just clearly I am stuck in a box when it comes to building. But nonetheless, I decided for this build that I wanted to do something a little bit different than what I normally do. So I was trying to like experiment a little bit more with like the roofing and everything, and then also especially on the inside, I tried to use items that I normally don't and wouldn't use, because like I said, I make the same house over and over and over and over again, pretty much, using the same items all the time. So I kind of try to challenge myself in using things that I normally wouldn't gravitate towards. But basically, obviously, I kind of go for like a classic look as far as the exterior. I did like I just love like a two-toned, two-color, like, what is it called? Like textured house. I just really like it. I think it looks really nice. So I did like the wood on one side and then stone on the other. And of course, the stone is gray. I want to use platforms more, but I, for one, don't like how obviously like the house now is like gonna be up a little bit, and I don't necessarily like that. And then also, it's just I always forget until like last minute. And I did try and like finagle it so it would like maybe make a little bit more sense by like trying to put the house on like an actual slope or whatever. But again, like because I didn't do that until after I already had the shell of the house built, it just wasn't working out. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out and get the landscaping to, or not the landscaping, but like the terrain tools to kind of work. But it just didn't really work out all that well. So I eventually gave up and then I started working on the actual inside of the house. At first, I was thinking about making it a two-story home, and like having like the second floor be on the just one of the sides, but then I figured I would rather just do a smaller one-story home instead, and it would just make more sense to me to do that. But I used these counters. I don't honestly think I ever used these counters before because they just aren't my style. And especially the swatches, I'm not crazy about the swatches, but like I said, I was trying to get out of my comfort zone. And I was thinking about using the green, but at least just with it just being with the counters and then the green stove, it was just too much of a contrast to me, so I didn't really like it. So I did end up changing that. And I feel like for me personally, I know we do have a lot of fridges, but I would just love more. I don't know. Because I feel like I just always go for the same ones over and over again, because I just feel like the other ones don't fit kind of the look that I want for the houses that I build. And then I wanted to have the rooms on one side and then like the living areas kind of on the other, and I wanted it to be more than just one bedroom. So I ended up at least initially kind of just trying to squeeze everything, like living, dining, and kitchen, all in this one little area and space, and it was really hard for me to kind of find like the right way it should go. But I think I eventually do rearrange the room a little bit more, and it fits a bit better after I rearranged it, because right here it's like super tight, and I was like a little bit worried that it wouldn't be fully functional because it was so tight. And I feel like another thing that I would like a little bit more of as far as variety is TV stands, because I just feel like I use the same TV stands over and over again, because like I like simple plain stuff, and I just feel like there's not as many options for that. But like I said, I was trying to use items that I didn't normally use, so I put away the dream home decorator stuff and used, I don't know where the other one is from, but I did use another TV stand situation. And I wanted to give the interior a little bit of a different feel, so I did put like an angled wall in there. And then as far as the interior, initially I was thinking of having it where it's like, parents' room and then like a kid's room. But then I decided that I actually think that I should do something a little bit different and maybe have it where it's like two roommates and two roommates that are a little bit different. So I wanted to do this room. I kind of did more of like a more modern vibe to it. I've honestly don't think I've ever actually used that bed in a build before because I really just don't like it. I do not like the headboard and I just don't like it at all. So I used that since I don't normally use that. And then for this other room, I decided that I wanted to go like more of like an old vibe. Like, you have one person who's more techie or like just like more modern things, and then the other roommate kind of likes more so like old things, probably thrifts for their stuff more than getting the new stuff and whatnot. And this is another issue with using the platforms that I find sometimes is that it doesn't like always click in because sometimes it wants to sink down. But I was trying to find like the smallest desk possible that still like kind of fit like the oldish kind of look and vibe that I wanted to go for. And I was able to find that little small desk. I honestly didn't genuinely even know that existed. I feel like the only small desks that I really knew about were the ones with like the shelves on them. But I'm glad that I was able to find a lot of other options. And I really I realized halfway through that like I didn't put any flooring down. I also didn't put any like wallpaper or anything. So now I'm actually finally going back and doing that. And I feel like doing like flooring and wallpaper and stuff for me is just always like the hardest thing because like I said, I like plain things. I'm not crazy about like patterns and stuff like that. And so it's really hard for me to like willingly put that into my game because it just doesn't look good to me or it just doesn't look right to me unless it's like a certain vibe, like the old school room, like that's kind of like country vintage kind of vibes that fits like a wallpaper kind of vibe to me. But like if it's just a normal bedroom, I'm like it just needs to have a plain wall. So I'm gonna start trying to venture in and using more of the pattern walls and wallpaper, but it's just so hard for me because to me at least it's not necessarily pleasing to my eye. And I feel like I definitely, one of the things that I make that's pretty much the same every time is definitely the bathroom. Because again, I like things plain and simple and just pleasing to my eye personally. And so I go for like very light or like not that much color for like the bathrooms and stuff. It's like white, gray, and black are, and then maybe a splash of color. So the bathroom is kind of same old, but I figured, that doesn't have to necessarily kind of match the vibes of either one. It kind of can just be like a plain basic bathroom that they both can obviously use and be happy with. And so I definitely wanted to add in a lot of like plants in this room. So I decided to put those little wall hanging plant things, whatever you want to call them, on that angled wall just to like have something going on there because you can't really fit much in that space because it is a really tight space. And so I decided to put those there, but then eventually I do make like a little basement situation down below and just bring them up because I didn't like how they were going so far up, and so I do change that a little bit. It took me a hot minute to do because I've honestly never really done that before as far as like the basement. And I will say this house might be a little bit more than what it should because that bed, it disappeared and then it reappeared randomly back and then it disappeared again. And so I tried my best to like get it back, but it just wouldn't reappear again. And so I just had to buy another bed. So it might be a little glitchy with that. So it might be like more expensive than it should be because I feel like it still thinks that the bed is there, but it's not. I don't know. I'm not too sure. But I just went ahead and bought another one because I couldn't figure out how to get the bed back. But I honestly, I really like this room a lot. Um, I've been trying to get more into cluttering up rooms and stuff because it's normally something like when I used to play The Sims for the longest time, I was just all about the gameplay and really did not care about like how the houses looked that I had. And so I would typically just get a house from the gallery that would at least have like the basic stuff that I would need. So like as long as I had like the amount of rooms or something that I needed, I would just go ahead and get it. And I would try to always get the um houses from the gallery that like I had to do the least amount of changes and rearranging possible. And then I would just, but like at most I would just add in like extra rooms or something that I would need, and they did not look aesthetically pleasing or anything. They were just existing, so my Sims could function pretty much. But then I started watching more building and stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, people are really talented and I want to do that too. And so that's kind of how I got into building, and I definitely think I've improved greatly from where I was because it was a hot mess before with all of my builds. Like I just did not know how to build, but that just shows that with practice and consistency and just keeping on and trying more and more, that eventually things can come to you. But I kind of was just trying to do like a little bit of cluttering here and there, but I didn't want to do too much because I kind of liked the way it looked. But I did just add in like a little bit of a coffee table, or not a coffee table, but like a console table there, because I just felt like the hallway area was kind of empty feeling. But then at the same time, because it's such a tight space, I knew that I couldn't put too much on there. And then I also always struggle with like what to put on the little tables and stuff like that, because it's like I don't want to put like too little because then it will just still look bare, but then I don't want to put too much because then it will just look too much. I'm making so much sense, aren't I? And then I also wanted to try and have like a little bit of a balance with like it's still kind of having that like old vintagey country vibe, but then also a mix of the more modern vibe. So like it really does seem like they like were blending together as far as like their decor style and whatnot. And then of course I always forget that I need to change my lights out. So I'm doing that at the moment, just trying to get some basic lights in there. Again, this is another top part where like I did try to use some lights that I normally don't use, but I've honestly been loving the newer packs lights. I think, at least to me, I'm really impressed with them. So like I've been using them a lot. And then I always use like either these curtains or the curtains that came with the one kit, the like desert kit or whatever it is. Because again, I just like simple stuff. So, sue me. And then I tried to just see if these cabinets would look good, but I hated them immediately. So I just went with a like little hood over the stove. And I really struggled with like what to put in this room because it was really small, so it wasn't like I could put a lot in there. But then I wanted it to like have a little bit of something, so it seems like someone lives there. So I just added some pictures and like a little like file thing because like I figured that person would maybe have more of like a kind of corporate-esque kind of job, whereas the other one is probably more of like a creative. That's the vibe, at least, that I was like thinking with the two. But whatever you want to think too. I did go ahead and add in like a little like cover over the porch kind of area because I felt like that would be nice. And I struggled with deciding on the columns that I wanted to use. I feel like I need like more, at least for me, I need more like just plain wood columns because some of the wood columns have like cracks and scratches and stuff in them, and I just don't like that. I want a simple plain wood, but like, I don't know, maybe I'm just being too picky. I guess that's probably true. But I just settled for that. And then I was wanting to try and do some fancy terrain paint situation to kind of mimic like a sidewalk, but it was just a hot mess and I just didn't like it at all. um so I do eventually, I think, change that up a bit. Well, I actually went back and forth. That's what I did. I literally just built this house yesterday, and I love how that I already kind of forgot the process that I went through. I was trying to do something a little bit more fancy. That's what I did. I was trying to do something a little bit more fancy with the sidewalk situation, but then I ended up just keeping it simple because it was looking crazy. So it does stay like that, but it was different before, but I just cut all of that out because again, when it comes to terrain manipulation, whether it's terrain paint or terrain tools, like with making hills and holes and whatnot, I just struggle. And I also struggle with landscaping in general, and especially when it's a more modern house, because I just feel like it doesn't need to have all that extra stuff. But nonetheless, um, I just feel like I just rambled really, really bad right there. But the video is coming to an end. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you did like it, you can give it a thumbs up. And you can also leave a comment down below. And if you like videos just like this, you can subscribe to my channel. And thank you once again for watching, guys. See you next time.